Today we're back outside looking at short game, and more specifically, chipping. So if you don't know what a chip shot is designed for the ball to fly the majority of the way and then run out the rest of the way. So distance control is very important here, and the height the ball comes in at will determine how far the ball is going to roll. So to get the desired flight, you're going to have to be able to get the ball in the air. And if you struggle to strike the ball consistently well, then this task will be near impossible. Stick around and I'll show you how to get that consistently good strike and improve that short game. So when choosing clubs for chipping, you want to be looking at between your pitching wedge and your lob wedge. All you got to remember that you go for a lower loft, the ball is going to carry less and it's going to roll out more. So a pitching wedge, you're looking at about 50% carry and 50% roll, whereas when you go to your lob wedge, you're going to be looking at more 75% carry and 25% roll. The lower lofted club would be the more reliable club, so whenever you get the opportunity, choose the lower lofted club before you go to your lob wedge. So let's get straight into it and look at what you need to do to consistently strike that ball. So the first thing we need to do to consistently strike that ball is to have a steep angle of attack. The angle of attack is the angle the club is entering the impact area in relation to the horizon. I've got this cane here representing the angle of attack for this chip shot. What this steep angle of attack is going to do is give that descending blow into the ball and encourage a ball divot contact. Most people will try and steepen the angle of attack by placing the ball in the back of the stance. What this will do will lower the ball flight because the loft on the club face has reduced. If you can hit this consistently well, and this is the flight you're after, then fine. But by reducing the loft, you're increasing the chance of digging the club into the ground before the ball and catching it heavy. This is because the bounce is no longer engaged. If you've seen my previous video on bunker shots, you'll notice that I talk a lot about bounce. The bounce is the thing that's going to stop the club from digging into the sand. But also, when chipping, it's going to stop the club from digging into the grass. So let me just demonstrate something. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit the ground hard. But because I've got the bounce on the club, when I hit the ground, it will not dig in. So I've hit this quite hard here. You get a little bit of dust up, but it's not digging in. So this time I'm going to take the bounce off and see what happens. So I've taken a big divot there. Better repair that. So that shows the importance of bounce. So if you can keep the bounce on the club on the downswing, that will give us that slight room for error. That is, of course, in case you hit the ground too soon. So to have the bounce, we need the loft on the club face at impact. So now we know what we need to achieve, let's look at how we can do it. First of all, let's start by placing the ball in the middle of the stance. The width of the stance is going to be slightly narrower than shoulder width. This will allow the body just to move nice and freely. So the ball is now in the centre of my stance and the butt of the club is pointing at my centre. This is what's going to allow me to keep the loft on the club face at address. So from this position, place 60% of your weight on your leading leg. By having the majority of your weight on that leading leg, that will increase the steepness on your backswing and encourage that ball divot contact we're after. So one way of getting a steeper backswing would be by hinging the wrists a lot. The problem with this is that you've got to time it very well to get the loft back on the club face at impact and get that consistent strike. Unless you're as good as Phil Mickelson, I'd advise against it. So the method I would use to get that steep angle of attack in the swing would be generated from my arms and my body. So with your weight on your leading leg, I want you to imagine taking the club back in a steep fashion without breaking your wrists. By doing this, you'll keep the loft on the club face and improve that strike. So I'm going to keep the majority of my weight on my leading leg and I'm going to focus on not breaking my wrists and taking the club back in a steeper angle. So let's have a look. So it's essential that you try and hit the ground with this technique. If the bounce is engaged, you'll not dig the club into the ground and you'll always get that nice crisp strike. Well, you got to remember that it's a short shot, you don't need that much power, and loft is key. So if you lose the loft, you got to gain the loft. So let's try and simplify things, take the club back with your body and your arms, and keep that loft on the club face as long as possible. So we need a steep angle of attack, keep the loft on the club face, and then just swing through. With any luck, trying to work on these few things will improve your chipping to no end. And we all know that getting your short game right is what's going to really lower those scores. So keep practicing on that short game and good luck.